Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching this stream on YouTube, on Rumble, and on Ganjing Word. It seems there is a technical problem on Ganjing Word, and it is not streaming at the current moment, but I will try to fix it during the live streaming, or I could stream it later, an hour later. Unfortunately, some of these softwares detect and work perfectly on Rumble and YouTube, but in other platforms, they do some problems, and it is out of my hands. I'm not a software expert. I'm just a geopolitical expert here trying to explain the current affairs to you. So hello to every one of you guys tuning in, and many of you were asking, what about Syria? What about the Middle East? Why you're not talking about the Middle East? Actually, it's now streaming again on Ganjing World. Perfect. For those who are asking, Ganjin Word is this website, which is again a streaming website, and I've been promised to be treated fairly and for my content not to be suppressed and be pushed to the bottom of the algorithm, because we speak here controversial things and we say controversial arguments. Therefore, YouTube doesn't really like what we are saying here, and they try to suppress the content. If you like to support this work so that we can navigate through the algorithm, you can simply hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. These easy things really help with the reach of this channel, which is inconsistent with the number of the subscribers. We have around now 95,000 subscribers, but around 10,000 people watch, between 5,000 to 10,000 people watch the streams. And many people say they don't even receive the notifications that there is a stream. It's crazy. Salam to everyone. Peace for you too. Hello from all around the world watching this stream, guys. As you may know, I come from Syria, and there has been a lot happening recently again in Syria, and especially in regards to Israel. And in this case, Israel is making some noise and claiming that there is a threat coming from Syria now, from Jolani. Just for context, Jolani's commanders, Jolani's officers, Jolani's fighters, they've been received by Israel many times in the Golan Heights and in the field hospitals, and they received medical care. They received cash. They received light weapons from Israel by the confession. This is all confessed by Israeli officials and Israeli press. And Israel, of course, assisted Jolani's people, including the United States, USAID, CIA, Pentagon, and many other regional intelligence, such as the Turkish intelligence, the MIT, Saudi intelligence, and most notably also the Qatari intelligence. So it's not like this group has been a rogue player in the in the Syrian conflict scene. In the contrary, they've been embraced by different regional intelligence apparatuses and later rebranded by the same regional and international intelligence apparatuses in order to present him as a rebel fighter, as a freedom fighter for the Syrian people, and also it's to sell him and normalize him in the eyes of the international community. And as you may know, yesterday Jolani was in, I believe, in Riyadh, and they attended the Special Arab League Summit to discuss the situation in Gaza. So they're going to present a counter proposal for Trump's proposal, which he wants to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, and the Arabs have submitted a proposal which was rejected, by the way, by the Trump administration, but we're going to come to that later. In this case, guys, as I wrote today, again, like just for you to know, what I do basically here, I do 1 hour stream trying to explain everything, but then I write an article about the same stream on Substack. So if you're on Substack, you can find me under my name, Kevork Almassian. So I write an article and then I link the stream at the bottom of the article, which is going to be giving you the answers about the questions that we're going to raise here. So in the aftermath of the Turkish-backed Takfiris ousting Bashar al-Assad in December 2024, Israel has raised alarms about the growing threat posed by these same extremist groups which Tel Aviv supported in the past. But is this concern genuine, or is it a calculated move in a broader geopolitical game? The reality is far more complex, guys, and far more troubling, I assure you. Israel and Turkey, despite their historical and rhetorical tensions, appear to have found common ground in their shared interest in ousting Assad in December 2024 and reshaping Syria's political landscape. For Turkey, HTS, or Hayat Tahrir al-Sham-led government in Damascus, would extend Ankara's neo-Ottoman influence over Syria, cementing its role as a regional power. But for Israel, the rise of a Takfiri government provides the perfect pretext to expand its territorial control within Syria under the guise of countering an Islamic threat. This alignment of interest is, of course, no coincidence. An HTS-led Syria under the leadership of Abu Muhammad al-Jolani serves both nations' strategic goals. For Turkey, it means a pliant government in Damascus that aligns with its ambitions. For Israel, on the other hand, it creates a fragmented, unstable Syria that can be exploited to further its own territorial and security objectives. But the implications of this alliance are dire for Syria and its people. Jolani and his loyalists are Takfiris, who view religious and ethnic minorities as heretics and enemies. Their rise to power has already unleashed a wave of violence against Syria's minorities, including the Druze, Kurds, Christians, and Alawites. Israel, meanwhile, has seized this opportunity and seized on this chaos to position itself as the savior of these minorities. I told you guys in the past streams, especially after the fall of Assad, that Israel catches and holds both cards. It creates a problem and then presents the solution for the people. They have created these conditions in Syria. They have asked the United States to start this regime change war, and the United States assisted all these Takfiri groups, including Turkey. So Israel knew what is going to be the outcome of it, but they wanted this outcome to happen because now they can present themselves as the savior of the minorities in the country. These narratives allows Israel to justify its continuous expansion into Syrian territory, all while presenting itself as a benevolent force in the region. The irony is stark, guys. While Israel claims to defend minorities from Jolani's gangs, it is simultaneously benefiting from the very instability that these extremist groups create. This is not about altruism, it is about opportunism. Meanwhile, Jolani's recent appearance at the Arab League summit to discuss the Arab Initiative for Gaza highlights the absurdity of the situation. Here is the leader of a Takfiri group backed by Turkey and tacitly enabled by Israel, calling on the international community to pressure Israel to withdraw from Syrian territories. But when has the international community ever been able to compel to relinquish occupied land, especially from the Israeli side? The answer is never. The truth is, Syria under Jolani has become a passive actor, unable to resist Israeli encroachment or defend its own sovereignty. Jolani's rhetoric of diplomacy and peace is little more than a smokescreen designed to placate Syria's territory. In the worst-case scenario, this could lead to the Balkanization of Syria, with Israel establishing de facto control over regions populated by minorities. This is the tragic reality of Syria today, a nation torn apart by external powers pursuing their own agendas with little regard for the suffering of its people. Turkey and Israel may have different endgames, but their collaboration has created a nightmare for Syria. This is undeniable. One that shows no sign of ending. As the world watches this unfolding tragedy, it's worth asking, who truly benefits from this chaos? And at what cost? I apologize, by the way. I'm chewing a gum and I forgot to take it out before the live stream. I hate it when I'm talking and there is a chewing gum in my mouth. So I think this article perfectly explains the situation and the mutual interests between Turkey and Israel, and at the same time, the different end games. And this will eventually lead into different political agendas and different regional agendas, different, let's say, religious, different ideological, different economical interests in the country. And this will all lead into more fragmentation and more chaos in the country. This is the unfortunate truth about the situation in Syria. And it bothers me, to be honest with you, to see some analysts claiming that there is going to be resistance emerging from underneath the soil, and all of a sudden people will start fighting against Israeli occupation forces. And I would like to make it clear to you, I have never lied to you on Syriana Analysis about Syria. My track record is quite clear, and I have told you the truth about this. And the recent developments in Syria prove that I was right. And there were so many people who were in a wishful thinking after, or spreading wishful thinking after the regime change. I think they have woken up to this bitter reality. And the situation, in my opinion, in Syria is worse than the era which followed the Six-Day War. Remember, the Six-Day War in 1967 was the biggest defeat for the Arabic countries in the recent history. And it was called Naksa in Arabic. The 1948 occupation of Palestine, or the ethnic cleansing, was called the Nakba. And the Nakba meant catastrophe. But in 1967, when the Arabs lost the war against Israel, this was called Naksa. Naksa means a setback. So I think this is a combination of a Nakba and a Naksa for the Syrians, with all the religious and ethnic backgrounds. Many of them do not realize it at the current moment, but eventually they will. And some of them already started to wake up to the bitter reality. And I think that Syria has become a very passive player in the region. It's fragmented and it is divided into vertical lines. There is lots of sectarian hatred in the country. The country is on the edge, and Jolani's gangs are moving from one town to another, especially in Latakia nowadays, and they have killed many civilians yesterday. So yesterday, on Monday, they have yesterday was Tuesday, they went into Alawite neighborhoods in Latakia, and they trying to detain military age men under the same pretext, regime remnants, and they are kidnapping people, and they are kicking out people from their homes. They want to take over their land, just like what the settlers do basically in West Bank, for example, when they come from far away. And some of them are not even Syrians. So this is happening now in Syria, and the people are really fed up. The other day I received a message from a friend, and I'm not going to show you the message. I will read you the message. This is what the friend said in the message. Hello, things are getting really tight here. More daily provocations, crimes, and violence. Tolerance is not going to last forever. More people are losing their jobs. I just saw a few minutes ago a so-called security guy forcing a cafe street vendor to go home because it is not allowed during Ramadan. I believe this vendor was a soldier who lost his job and salary, so he had to sell coffee. This is so sad, I swear. At the same time, people like in Syria are asking $8,000 in order to evacuate you via a plane outside of Syria, and they are profiting from the poverty of the people, or the urgency and the need of the people to, escape from the Jolani gangs, basically. By the way, speaking of Ramadan Kareem to everyone who is celebrating, and Ramadan Kareem for those who truly and strictly follow the religion of Islam, which means they fast for themselves and they fast for God. They fast in order to be closer to God. Fasting is something personal, which means if you respect your religion and you respect the orders of God, you will fast for yourself, for you, and for in front of your God. You have nothing to do with others. It's not your job to force others to fast. This is not what God told you. And therefore, what Jolani is basically doing in Syria, his Ministry of Endowment, which is the Ministry for Religious Affairs, is now criminalizing people if you break your fast in the street, which means if you are a Muslim, probably you don't want to fast. Or even if you're a Muslim and you are you're ill, you can like stop fasting until you recover. You can't do that. You can't walk in the street and eat. I've seen videos now from Syria, cars park in the middle of the street and start shouting and yelling at people and asking them to feel ashamed because they're eating. And when the people are asking him, "Who are you?" they say, "We're from the security." So you cannot force people to fast. This is not what God ordered you to do. And this is not an anti-Islamic talking point. What you're doing, Jolani, I'm talking to Jolani's gangs, is against the order of God. Because God didn't ask you to force others to fast. And fasting is a personal thing for you. So this is truly absurd. And they are basically closing cafeterias, restaurants, and even street cafe vendors who are just selling small, let's say, these espressos for people, just to make a living, they are forcing them to shut down. So please tell me how Jolani's regime is diversity friendly, like the Daily Telegraph or the Express, they were titling it. How is this type of mentality going to build a state? This is not a group that can build a state. It is a group that can destroy the foundation of a state. And that's the purpose, and that's why they wanted for HTS to come to power. And now we have Israel claiming that there is a growing threat from these so-called Islamists. And the Wall Street Journal even, this is an article in the Wall Street Journal, this is so absurd that they are claiming that Jolani is trying to unify the country, right? This is how they titled this article. See, I'm going to show you. So the Wall Street Journal, Israel sees growing threat in Islam is trying to unify Syria. Imagine. So just for you to know, this article basically speaks or explains the Israel's interest in Syria. And what do they want from HTS and how do they see HTS after the regime change, not before the regime change, right? So just to keep in mind the language and the intention, and whoever wrote this article, the intention is to show the interest of Israel in Syria. So they say for 2 decades, Israel's next door neighbor was Bashar al-Assad, a hostile dictator who was weakened by Syria's sectarian divisions. Now, Israel is trying to neutralize what security officials see as a threat, Turkish-backed Islamists trying to unify Syria. In recent days, Israel's military has targeted more military sites in new areas of southern Syria to keep weapons out of the new government's hands. Israel said Tuesday it would spend more than $1 billion to assist the Druze in northern Israel in what security analysts said was a move to coax the minority group to help persuade Syrian Druze to reject the new government. So this is what basically Israel is doing. They're spending lots of money nowadays for in the press, to the influencers, for public relation, and even probably money among the leadership of the Druze in order to persuade them to say we want the protection of Israel. Now there are some voices coming among the Druze saying we want the Israeli protection, but there are also other voices coming from the Druze saying we don't want Israeli protection and we're part of Syria. So basically Israel already created division within and among the Druze in a way that just by saying that we are ready to protect the Druze of Syria. And Israel is lobbying world powers around the idea of making the new state emerging in Syria a federal system of autonomous ethnic groups. You see, this is the point. This is the goal of Israel. Now, after the regime change and after the weakening of Syria and after the destruction of the Syrian army, Syria is weak, Syria is fragmented, Syria is a playground for all intelligence apparatuses and all spies and all intelligence assets and operatives now in Syria, right? And what Israel wants, basically, they want for Syria to be decentralized and for the Druze, for the Kurds to have their own autonomy, decentralized from the Damascus government. This has been the goal of Israel since the beginning, and this was the main demand of the United States to Bashar before he left, that if you have to do constitutional reforms And through the constitutional reforms, they wanted to decentralize Syria, something that Assad rejected. And that's why they didn't, let's say, normalize him again in the eyes of the so-called international community. So Israel is lobbying in order to create a federal system in Syria and autonomous ethnic regions, with the southern border areas by Israel demilitarized, an idea the Damascus government has rejected. Last week, Benjamin Netanyahu demanded that southern Syria be demilitarized. He declared Syrian leadership's forces, once aligned with al-Qaeda, wouldn't be allowed in the region. The funding of the Druze came after Israel threatened to take military action to protect Syria's Druze minority as tensions erupted over the weekend between some Druze and government security forces in Damascus suburbs. While Israel immediately seeks to protect its borders and create a buffer zone, its actions are paving the way for an Israeli vision of federalist Syria with an autonomous zone controlled by friendly Druze along its borders. In such scenario, Syria would become a union of states, mostly autonomous, from what would be a weak central government with more power in local hands, especially in areas pushing up to Israel's borders. So, Israel is also particularly worried about the role of Turkey is taking in Syria, bringing influence of its major geopolitical rival in the region right onto its doorstep for the first time. Turkey, the first Muslim country to recognize Israel, is a US ally and member of NATO. But Israeli-Turkish relations have long been tense, yes, on the surface, especially since the war in Gaza. Israel is seeking to strengthen ties to the Druze minority within Israel and in Syria. For Israel, the shared familial links and security interests with the Druze represent an opportunity for the country to ally itself with a powerful minority group living near its borders. The funding plans show Israel is investing in goodwill with its own Druze population, who have complained about second-class treatment from the government, especially when it came to the issue of housing and building permits. Some Druze have indicated fear of Syria's new rulers and expressed support for Israel, including calling for their community to secede from Damascus. Many others, though, have protested in the streets, denouncing Israel's ambitions as Druze leaders declare they remain unified with Syria. One example of the divided loyalists was when, at a protest this week, one person hung up the Israeli flag, but it was then pulled down and burned. So I think my article in Substack and this article in the Wall Street Journal, those are perfect material for the people also to understand why there has been an authoritarian political system in Syria. Because unfortunately speaking, in the past 400 and let's go even back, for 1400 years, so 1400, 1500 years since Prophet Muhammad came, and then the conquest of Damascus and the Muslims arrived into the Levant, there has been not a single example of a thriving democratic rule in Syria or in the region that is called now Syria. So then the Ottoman Empire, of course, occupied Syria for 400 years, the region at the which is called now Syria. And there has been no active political life. And then the French occupied Syria, and they have picked and chosen the rulers and the people they wanted to represent their ethnic and religious and sectarian groups, right? France also paved the way for the sectarian divisions in the country until the independence of Syria. And independence of Syria came after World War II, and the people wanted to establish a democratic state. So there was an attempt to democratize Syria. But the political elite in Syria between the 50s and 60s, so in these 15 years since the independence of Syria, Syria has been ruled by mostly the bourgeoisie. So the political life has become in the hands of the rich people. And most of these rich people were from the Sunni merchants and Sunni businessmen, and in Aleppo, in Homs, in Damascus. And it's similar to many of the Western governments when it is like the political elite are from the, this very tiny elite. And this was also the case in Syria. And all this new experience in Syria, it was new for everyone. And 9 to 10 times coup d'etats happened in 10 to 15 years in Syria until the Baathists came. And during this time, by the way, the national identity, yes, the people were speaking about national identity. They were trying to formulate a national identity, like we are Syrians, right? But there was no concrete or solid political system which was able to enforce this national identity on the people or convince them of a national identity instead of being identifying themselves as part of a religious or ethnic group. So it was difficult for this democratic system, which didn't last much, and it was followed by 10 coups, to be able to build and to present and to convince the people to adopt a national identity until the Baathists came in 63. In 63, and then Hafez al-Assad in the 70s, and the Pan-Arabists, they brought this national identity, the umbrella for everyone to live with each other. You're Syrian, right? But now that the Baathists are gone, the national identity has been put on the shelf, and now people are speaking about their sub-identity. I'm a Christian, I'm a Druze, I'm an Alawite, I'm a Sunni, and even the people of Jolani, they don't understand that they are enforcing this narrative or this approach by saying, look, we, the Sunnis, are 70% of the Syrian people. We have the right to rule Syria, but that's not how democracy works. First of all, 70%, including the Kurds. Kurds are not part of the HTS. Secondly, this is a sectarian system. If you think that because the Sunni Muslims are the majority, then they have to rule the country, you're not establishing democracy, you're establishing a sectarian system. And the sectarian system, like in Lebanon, it's a joke. It doesn't lead into any prosperous and beneficial, anything prosperous or beneficial for the people, because then the people, if I am ethnic Armenian and my vote goes to the Armenian MP, member of parliament, regardless of his qualification or his political program, then I'm just a shepherd. You know what I mean? I'm not even thinking. I become like, okay, I'm a Shia, I'm voting for the Shia. I'm a Sunni, I'm voting for the Sunni. I'm a Kurd, I'm voting for the Kurd, regardless of their political agenda. That's not what democracy is about. So now this all this chaos that is happening in Syria, because I'm speaking about national identity, sub-identities, etc. One of the consequences of these divisions that Syria and the people of the region lived for centuries, one of its consequences is the establishment of an political authoritarianism in order to enforce a national identity over the people. Look, I'm not justifying it, I'm explaining it. Now that the political authoritarianism is gone, which believed in a national identity, and the replacement is a religious fanaticism, basically, which is worse, means that the country is headed to further destabilization and fragmentation and worst case scenario balkanization, and this is what Israel wants. I hope that this explanation was beneficial for you. So those who think that I'm some people are really rude, by the way, and if you don't like what I'm saying, seriously, just leave. You don't have to come here and spit your I work for hours on a live stream, and somebody is sitting in somewhere and thinks like, anyways, it's crazy. Some people. So we spoke about. Yes, you don't have to. You don't have to come and watch it. I will. You don't like this stream, you don't come here. It's very easy. So in the Sweda, some people raise the Israeli flag. See here on the top side here is on Mint Press. They say an Israeli flag was raised in Sweda by members of the Syrian Jewish community, according to reports. However, shortly after it was hoisted, local residents took down the flag and burned it. This development comes after a Syrian Jewish delegation from the World Jewish Council visited Jerusalem to normalize ties with Israelis. So they have already created divisions within the Jewish community. Some people want the protection of Israel, others not, and this is leading into scenes like this. Probably somebody who was even an Israeli asset did this just to create this social chaos in Sweden. Anyways, I just don't want to engage in talks with people in the chat, especially like it's easy, really. You don't like it today, I'm just being repetitive, you can leave the live streaming for those who are here just to annoy. So Israel basically this week, what they did is not only to send signals to the Jews, but also to the Alawites. And this is, again, a very dangerous what Israel is doing, but they're playing perfectly well because they are manipulating the Syrian people in this case. And how they're doing it, the Jolani gangs, they went to the town or city of Qardaha, where Bashar al-Assad comes from, and in their mind, because Bashar comes from there, then they have to persecute everyone in Al-Qardaha or all the Alawites, because then Bashar was from the Alawite sect, right? So while they're doing this persecution, Israel bombed military warehouses that these Jolani gangs have taken over, which used to belong to the Syrian army. So by doing it, they sent their influencers on social media platforms, sending the signal to the Alawites that we're watching the persecution of the Alawites in Latakia, and if Jolani gangs insist on this approach, we will bomb them even more. And they even brought the example of Hassan Nasrallah saying that Jolani's fate is going to be the same of Hassan Nasrallah. So in this case, what they're basically, the type of message they're sending is for the Alawites, we are with you, although they created this or participated in the creation of this problem. But if the Jolani gangs accelerate these attacks, we will protect you. And I go and check the comments under the Israeli influencers, basically writing in Arabic, and you see how many just ordinary people telling, I don't know if they're bots, I don't know if they are real people, but when you read the comments, especially the first ones, because on X, they show you the comments that receive the most likes or been seen the most. And many people are like, oh, we don't have a problem with Israel, protect us, do something, and Jolani is killing us, this and that. So it's working. It's working. Now, we will go and watch the you're doing great, Kevork. Haters always creep out of the woodworks when you speak the truth. It's not only that, my friend. Some people send me emails and trying to patronize me, and I'm very respectful with everyone. Therefore, I don't accept for people to send me patronizing emails teaching me basically with a finger treatment how to speak English or how to pronounce English. I don't think the people who are doing this kind of speak 4 languages like I speak, so I don't want to brag about it, but English is my 3rd language. So if someone can do daily 1 hour stream in his or her 3rd language, bravo, go open your YouTube channel and do it. But it's absurd for people to, I accept very constructive criticism, and especially when you're criticizing, the tone and the style is very important, especially for me. I don't know, I have an issue with people if you want to criticize, just be, humble and nice. But if you come in an arrogant attitude, I don't accept that. So for those who can do better, they should open their YouTube channel. That's what I would encourage. So now we will going to watch the speech of Abu Muhammad Jolani during the Arab League Summit, speaking in Arabic, by the way. He's speaking in Arabic. He's speaking from paper. So at least he should know how to read well. I appreciate it, my friend. And despite that, he can't really speak proper Arabic. I want you to see this video. So let's take a look together. Let's see if we can make it.
وصولا إلى سياسات الاستيطان والتهجير القسري التي تهدف.
So he's speaking here about Palestine, of course, and he says the settlements and forced displacement aim to obliterate the identity of the Palestinian people. And I just want you to focus on the subtitles, and I would like to make some comments about his speech in the Arab Summit.
إلى طمس هوية الشعب الفلسطيني، ومع الأسف وفي مرحلة دقيقة من تاريخ الأمة العربية نرى اليوم محاولات جديدة لفرض حلول تسعى إلى إعادة رسم الخرائط السياسية.
He already made two pronunciation mistakes and language mistakes in the first two sentences in his Arabic.
للمنطقة على حساب دماء وأرواح شعب فلسطين. إن هذه الدعوة للتهجير القسري
This is the third one.
وصمة عار
This is the fourth one.
ضد الإنسانية بكل المعايير، وهي محاولة لإعادة إنتاج مأساة جديدة تضاعف معاناة الشعب الفلسطيني الذي لا يزال يعيش في ظل الاحتلال ويعاني من الحصار والدمار. لقد شهدنا في السنوات الأخيرة محاولات مستمرة لتوسيع رقعة الاستيطان في الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة، ومحاولات لتفريغ القدس من سكانها الأصليين. والآن يأتي التهديد الجديد الذي يسعى إلى تهجير ملايين الفلسطينيين من غزة.
So basically he's saying the threat was by the settlers and the expansion in the West Bank, and now we have a different threat against the Palestinians, which is the project of the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip.
في خطوة تهدف إلى تجريدهم من حقهم الأصيل في العودة إلى ديارهم. نحن في سوريا نعتبر أن هذه الدعوة هي تهديد ليس فقط للشعب الفلسطيني بل للأمة العربية بأسرها، لأنها تمس جوهر القضية الفلسطينية التي هي قضية كل عربي. إن تهجير أهل غزة في هذا الوقت تحت أي مسمى أو مبرر هو بمثابة تطبيق عملي لمشروع تهجير أوسع يسعى إلى اقتلاع الفلسطينيين من أرضهم، وهو ما لا يمكن قبوله بأي شكل من الأشكال.
Just for you also to know, guys, the former regime used to call Israel the Zionist entity. So they didn't give a political legitimacy to the Israeli political system. And there is no relationship, there is no peace agreement between them. But under Jolani, this has been changed in the diplomatic language. And even the diplomats, whom I know, basically, who used to work in the Ministry of Expatriates and Foreign Affairs under the Assad government, they're still diplomats. They received instructions to change the language from the Zionist entity into Israel or the Israeli occupation. So in Arabic, these terms have meanings, and they have connotations, and they can legitimize and delegitimize a political system. Under Jolani, definitely they are going to take the approach of the broader Arabic neighborhood from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, Jordan, Egypt, etc., and he will join the rank of the Arabic countries. And this is something that he reiterated in this speech by saying that Syria finally returned to its Arabic umbrella, because they had the interpretation or the opinion was based on the fact that Syria was part of the Iranian axis and not part of the Arabic axis. So now Jolani is presenting himself as someone who brought back Syria to the Arabic axis. But the Arabic axis, who are the Arabic axis basically? The most influential country among the Arab world is Saudi Arabia, is Qatar, is UAE, and is Egypt. And all these countries have formal relations with Israel. Qatar doesn't have an embassy, but they have intelligence coordination between the intelligence and diplomatic, and they're the mediator between Hamas and Israel. So if we're going to interpret what Jolani says, the meaning is that Syria will be with the Arabic consensus, and that is to recognize Israel, to accept the two-state solution, which Israel doesn't accept anyways. And the struggle against Israel will be exclusively through the diplomatic and political means, like asking the international community to withdraw from the territories occupied. We call for peace. We call for two-state solutions. Meanwhile, Israel is building the settlements. Israel is kicking the Palestinians out of their land, and including the attempts to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip.
إن هذا التهديد ليس مجرد قضية إنسانية، بل هو اختبار لمدى التزامنا كعرب بقضيتنا المصيرية. ولقد حان الوقت لأن نقف جميعا في وجه هذه المخططات ونرفضها بكل قوة. إن ما يحدث اليوم في غزة يجب أن يكون جرس إنذار لجميعنا، فالعدو لا يتوقف عن عدوانه، والظروف الدولية والداخلية قد تساهم أحيانا في تهميش قضايا المنطقة. لكننا اليوم هنا لنقول بشكل واضح إن الدول العربية يجب أن تتحد في مواقفها وأن تتحمل مسؤولياتها تجاه هذا الشعب الذي عانى من أفظع أنواع القهر والظلم.
So basically, he wants for the Arabic countries to be responsible for the future and the fate of the Palestinians. This is very important, by the way, because the Palestinians should be able to determine their future. But he wants for the Arabic countries to intervene and to be included in a political process for the sake of the Palestinians. And in this case, it's very important to know that the Arabic countries, they are pro-US, and especially Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they are very much with Trump. And I don't see any hope, 0%, that the Arabic countries are capable to pressure Trump in order to establish a two-state solution. Not that I believe in a two-state solution. I believe for one-state solution for all in Palestine. However, I don't see that even if the Arabic countries wanted to establish a two-state solution, that they are able to press Trump or Israel to achieve it. So all this talk is just the words in the air, right?
ظلم. كما نؤكد في الجمهورية العربية السورية أننا على استعداد تام للمساهمة في كل الجهود الإنسانية السياسية والدبلوماسية لإغاثة أهل غزة والضغط على المجتمع الدولي من أجل وضع حد لهذا العدوان. ولا شك.
He also wants for the international community to press on Israel to end its hostilities against the Palestinians.
كان الدور العربي في هذا السياق سيكون أساسيا، ويجب أن يتم تكثيف التعاون بين جميع الدول العربية لتقديم الدعم المادي والسياسي، وكذلك دعم التحركات الدبلوماسية التي تدعو إلى وقف إطلاق النار فورا. ومن هذا السياق يجب أن نعيد التأكيد على حق الشعب الفلسطيني في العودة إلى دياره وحقه في تحقيق مصيره. إن غزة اليوم هي فلسطين، وفلسطين هي غزة، وكلنا اليوم هنا لنكون صوتا واحدا للعدالة والسلام. أصحاب الفضل.
So we are here all for justice and peace. Again, all these words are calculated. Like if you want justice, then justice in his mind is a two-state solution. And peace, therefore, this justice will bring peace with Israel. So eventually this will lead into normalization of relations with Israel. When Assad was ousted, I was on RT and I speculated and I said, I want to make a bold speculation, and in 3 years, Jolani will normalize ties with Israel. I'm not sure if that is going to be the case, because if Israel is going to establish a demilitarized zone in the south and basically having its dominance over this region and HTS cannot move there, then the borders of Israel will be technically stretched to Damascus. And if it's technically stretched to Damascus, I think sooner or later there is going to be a conflict over Damascus between Turkey and Israel. And if that happens, Trump will side with Israel. So the stakes are so high for Jolani, for Israel, for Turkey, for the United States in this case. And if this conflict happens, this clash happens, I speculate, again, I might be wrong, that Israel will definitely emerge victorious from this against Turkey, and US will side with Israel against Turkey. And then Turkey will have to choose to go back, withdraw, and continue having its neo-Ottoman influence over Aleppo, Idlib, Homs, and Hama. This would be the Turkey would be satisfied, and also Israel would be satisfied.
الضخامة والمعالي. وفي ذات السياق إن إسرائيل منذ احتلالها للجولان السوري في عام 1967 لم تتوقف عن انتهاك حقوق الشعب السوري، بل أمعنت في سياسات العدوان وحاولت مرات فرض واقع جديد في الأراضي المحتلة. هذا التوسع العدواني ليس فقط انتهاكا للسيادة السورية، بل هو تهديد مباشر للأمن والسلام في المنطقة بأسرها. ونؤكد أننا متمسكون تماما بالتزامنا باتفاق 1974 الخاص بالفصل بين القوات الذي تم التوصل إليه برعاية الأمم المتحدة. لا يمكن بحال قبول أن يستمر الجانب الإسرائيلي في تجاهل هذه الاتفاقات وفي تقويض الاستقرار في المنطقة من خلال تصعيد الهجمات العسكرية وزيادة الاستيطان على الأراضي السورية. إن هذا العدوان الإسرائيلي المتواصل إلى جانب الهجمات العسكرية التي تستهدف أمن سوريا واستقرارها يتطلب منا جميعا الوقوف صفا واحدا ضد هذا التصعيد. إن التهاون في مواجهة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي قد يفتح المجال لمزيد من التحديات والتهديدات على الأمن القومي العربي.
So this is very important what he says here, which is true. Like the Israeli expansion inside Syria poses a threat to the national security of not only Syria, but the entire Arabic security architecture, which is true. But there is one thing missing in this speech, and that is the Turkish threat against the Arabic national security. And this is something that is missing in all the speeches. And Turkey under Erdogan and previously other governments as well, they have imperialist ambitions, and Turkey has the legacy of imperialism in the region, occupation and conquering more land, conquests of Arabic territories, and they have the history, and they think that they have the legacy of the Ottoman Empire, and they need to revive this Turkish Commonwealth basically for the region. So Turkey also poses a national security threat for the Arabic security architecture, but they don't speak about this. And when I want to really measure the direct damage, right? Direct damage, which means like the direct military support, the training, the cash, the logistics, borders, right, open for ISIS to come to Syria. The direct damage that the direct damage that Turkey has done to Syria exceeds far more than what Israel has done. And I'm not trying to say like Israel didn't do any damage. In the contrary, they have done horrendous and peak damage in Syria. But Turkey's direct participation and involvement in this conflict is the main reason why there has been ISIS and al-Nusra and then HTS and Ahrar Sham and Islam's army, etc., etc. So I would always put Turkey's threat to Syria at least on the equal level of Israel, something that is not many Arabic people and Muslim people speak about, because Turkey is an Islamic country and we are brothers. But no, the Ottomans occupied Syria for 400 years, and they have subjugated your own people, and they have mistreated the Arabs for centuries. But people forget this, and they don't really see Turkey as a threat because it's just because they're Muslims. Now, Jolani was asked by an Egyptian journalist on Al Arabiya, which is a Saudi-funded TV, about how is he going to challenge the Israeli occupation of Syria. And his answer was hilarious.
احنا يعني علاقتنا مع العرب بشكل عام يعني بنيت قبل القمه العربيه، وكثير من القاده العرب زاروا دمشق، والسيد وزير الخارجيه زارهم، وانا ايضا قمت بعض الزيارات. فسوريا في مكانها الطبيعي الان.
See, this is the thing that which I said. Syria is now in its natural place, he says. And this is the thing that which I tried to explain, because in the eyes, Syria was part of the Iranian axis, and now it has become part of the Arabic axis. So Syria is in its natural place now, he says. This is number one. So this message is aimed at the broader Arabic audience. Now he will flirt with Egypt.
طبيعي الان هي بينها وبين اخوانها، وهي جزء من الحضن العربي، لا اقول عاده الحضن، هي جزء من الحضن العربي ايضا، وبالاخص مصر. يعني كما يقال ان
Egypt, see?
مصر والشام جناحان لطائر واحد. هذا الحالة الطبيعية عبر كل فترات التاريخ.
طيب يا فندم، حضرتك القمه كانت تركز بشكل
What would
واضح
you do
على
about
الوضع
Israel?
فيما يتعلق بالقضيه الفلسطينيه، وحضرتك كان ليك مواقف واضحه ايضا في هذا الامر من رفض العدوان الاسرائيلي. العدوان الاسرائيلي ايضا مستمر على سوريا، رغم ان هناك نهج يبدو ان سوريا حاولت فيه ان تقدم خطابا ايجابيا للسلام. كيف؟
So basically the journalist is asking him that you have given a speech about Palestine and Israel, and you were trying to position yourself in the peace camp. So how are you going to deal with the Israeli aggressions against your country? Please check the subtitles for this answer.
فترى حضرتك العدوان الاسرائيلي وكيفيه التعامل معه؟
العدوان الإسرائيلي هو استغلال لمرحلة انهيار النظام وأجرى التقدمات بحجج أمنية، لكن النوايا توسعية يعني ظاهر في هذا الأمر. بماذا سنرد؟ فهذا الذي ينبغي أن لا نقوله. نعم.
So he says this. How is he going to respond? How will we respond? He says this is what we should not declare now to the press. How about I tell you the answer? You're not going to respond. First of all, you don't even have the military capabilities to kick the Israeli occupation forces out of Syria, because you overseen the destruction of the Syrian army strategic weaponry, and probably you even gave them the coordinations, and you allowed Israeli journalists to come to your country and document all the former Syrian army bunkers and its military capabilities, and then Israel came and destroyed them, right? And but the question here is, if Jolani had enough military capabilities to send car bombs in Iraq, suicide bombers in Syria, I'm not saying that he has to do it. I'm so against this type of attacks, but I'm just wondering, if he was capable of sending hundreds of people to blow up themselves and sending car bombs in Iraq and Syria, now he all of a sudden has become like this peace pigeon, you know? Our hands are extended for peace. We are again back to the Arabic umbrella after we have been under the Iranian influence, and we want justice for the Palestinians. We want peace with Israel, this and that. But the truth of the matter is, Israel has played a major role in removing the previous regime. And this has been repeated many times. And I want you to listen to people like Smotrich when they give their opinion about such things, because they don't, they want to brag about the accomplishment of Israel, right? Because in their eyes, the axis of Iran has been the major threat against them, especially after October 7, and there has been an existential threat against Israel, with the Houthis participating and blockading the Red Sea, with Iranian missiles 2 times, with Hezbollah's daily attacks against them, with the major attack on October 7, etc., regardless of what you think about October 7. But Israel has been in a cycle of violence, and even in an economic level, it has been drained. And the US had to spend tens of billions of dollars over Israel to save it. But now, after the regime change in Syria, I believe that Israel managed to emerge as victorious from this conflict, at least in Syria, right? And Syria was part of the Axis. And when these confrontations were happening, and there was this existential threat against Israel's survival, Turkey and Israel collaborated in order to oust Assad. Both had different, let's say, goals. Turkey wanted to extend its new Ottoman, to bring its new Ottoman proxies to power in Damascus, extend its influence over Syria, and for Israel to end the axis of resistance by cutting the supply chains for Hezbollah. And if you remember, there is a speech for Nasrallah maybe 12, 13 years ago. And just for the people who are watching from the mind readers or the Stasis or the people who are waiting me to say something that could incriminate me, this is in disclaimer, this is in no way or shape a support for any prescribed organization. I'm just explaining here geopolitical things for the people. And one of the players who played a major role in this was Sayyidina Hassan Nasrallah. And Nasrallah said like 15 years ago that in their vision or in their eyes, that one of the reasons why they went to fight in Syria against these Takfiri groups of Nusra, ISIS, etc., because they saw that the fall of Syria means eventually the fall of the resistance, not only in Lebanon, but also in Palestine. And therefore, Nasrallah said, if Syria falls, Palestine is gone. This is literally what he said. So, of course, Turkey knew that if they oust Assad, this is going to be the result, and they are going to hit the Palestinian armed factions and the Lebanese armed factions against Israel. But there was a mutual ground between them, and Jolani played this role. So eventually, or practically, Jolani helped Israel in this case, right? And Smotrich was very, I would say, honest about this. Take a look at the subtitles.
ניקח שנורקל, בלוני חמצן, נצלול לבאר, 500 יום, 600 יום, 700 יום, לא יהיה חמאס, לא יהיה חיזבאללה, לא יהיה אסד בסוריה, לא יהיה איום איראני, ולא יהיה... אבל אני רוצה לומר, בואו נגיד את האמת, הגענו להישגים צבאיים פנטסטיים במלחמה הזאת. פירקנו את עזה ואת חמאס, תכף נדבר על הכישלון הקולוסלי, אני צועק אותו, לא צריך אותך. איפה נכשלנו ואיפה נתקן, ואני עומד על זה שנתקן. אבל הגענו להישגים פנטסטיים בעזה, הגענו להישגים פנטסטיים מול חיזבאללה, התוצאה הייתה קריסה של סוריה.
And the outcome was the collapse of Syria within a week. We dismantled the army that Assad built over decades.
בשבוע פירקנו צבא שאסד בנה בעשרות שנים. אנחנו משנים את המשוואה לחלוטין מול איראן, תקפנו שם איראן מורתעת מלהחזיר. אנחנו עושים עכשיו ביהודה ושומרון שינוי תפיסה על מלא. זה לוקח זמן. 30 שנה של קונספציה. חבורה של טיפשים, זרקה פה ים של אבנים לבאר. הביאה פה את המחבלים של
So, I would like also to show you a few other things before. And this has been a new meeting, apparently. I don't know where it is in Israel, because one of the influencers, whose name is Eli Cohen, I think, Eddie Cohen or something. Eddie, yeah, this guy is Eddie Cohen. Is one of the influencers working for Israeli government, and he keeps tweeting in Arabic and talking to the Arabic audience and trying to normalize Israel among them. And he's a very big, of course, Netanyahu supporter and Trump supporter, etc., etc. And he published from this meeting, and this guy lives. This is him. See, this is himself, and he published this photo. He says, "Welcome, O Arabs, a delicious Zionist burger." And behind him there is this the revolution flag. I don't know what type of meeting was this, but this is going more on the surface, and this is the video.
Resistance. And my visit, my first visit to Israel after 7 October, I'm coming just for 7 October to support my friends and my brothers here in Israel. And I visited Nova.
It looks like this is the same place where this Eddie Cohen was sitting, right? It seems it's him who's making this video.
When I see the pictures of
You see the revolution flag here on the table again?
when I see the pictures of people who can just celebrate or dancing or some things like that, to be murdered and assassinate with this atrocity way.
So this is a new video and it has been circulating around. And this guy, Eddie Cohen, he says he's from the Jews of Lebanon. He's an academic researcher and an Israeli journalist. And he was the first one who published this photo. And the video is from the same meeting, so it should be new. Oh, I know I already surpassed the 1 hour, but there are some things I want to show you. For example, we have this Israeli journalist in Syria. He interviewed one of these Jolani soldiers. HTS welcomes an Israeli journalist in Damascus openly stating they have no problem with Israel. Imagine fighting for 14 years just for Zionist lapdogs to make peace with the occupier. There was never a revolution, just a Western-backed project to tear Syria apart. So I'm just going to show you this interview between a Jolani fighter and the Israeli journalist on channel 12. He says, do you have a problem with Israel? He says, Israel, no. I mean, he's speaking, by the way, in an Aleppo dialect. He says, Israel didn't harm us like Assad's regime harmed us.
إسرائيل ما ضرتنا مثل ما ضرت النظام. ممكن يكون سلام في الشرق الأوسط؟ إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله نحن دعاة للسلام.
They are advocates for peace. We want, like, they want peace with Israel, but they don't want peace with the Syrian brothers and sisters in the same country.
نحن نريد السلام في أحسن الواحد يبرك في بيته آمن مطمئن. ممكن سلام في الشرق الأوسط مع إسرائيل كمان؟ إن شاء الله يعني نحن نحرر سوريا نحن بس.
أوكي. تميد إيش صفوق كذا بين خيالين.
So, what do you think about this, guys? I'm very genuinely interested in hearing your thoughts about. Do you think that Jolani is still collaborating with Israel? Do you think that there's going to be a peace agreement between Syria under Jolani and Israel? Or it's going to lead into Balkanization and the division of Syria and the separation of the minorities and the Balkanization, etc., etc. I'm genuinely interested because we don't know to which direction. I'm more pessimistic on the pessimistic side. I don't want you to write wishful thinking or wishful statements, but let's brainstorm and speak together in the comments. I follow all the comments and I reply and put like for the comments, so I would be very interested also to read yours. If you like this stream, guys, today, the easy thing to do to support this channel is to hit the thumbs up and subscribe and leave a comment. That would be very beneficial for me because YouTube is suppressing the content. And if you like to do more, you can become a patron, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis, or there are different means in the description below from Buy Me a Coffee, from a premium membership, super chat, etc. For example, as you can see, our friends Alexander and our friend Alex, both of them are from Alexander. They have posted stickers and super chat. Those are the means I finance this work. It's 100% independent. So if you like to enable independent journalism and like this analysis, I would really appreciate your support. And we will definitely do another live streaming on Thursday, 6th of March, right? 5 p.m. Central European time, 11 a.m. Eastern American time. And on Friday, we're going to do it with Brian Beletic. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to this channel. Peace be upon you guys and upon your families. Salam.